All right, so as Kanye West continues with his seemingly endless self-destruction and tirades against the Jewish community, he has recently decided that he is officially going to be running for president in 2024, and as a part of this ongoing process, he's decided to cozy up to several pretty prominent white supremacists, or I guess more accurately, they could be referred to as full-blown Nazis, and he also just recently took a trip down to Mar-a-Lago to meet with former President Donald Trump, who of course is also running for president in 2024, and they apparently had this meeting. They had this sit down together and hashed out their disagreements, or hashed out what the plan is moving forward for the 2024 election. And so Kanye West put out this video. I guess he deleted it recently. I tried to go to his account to look at it, but this is the video that he posted just yesterday, essentially just talking about like what this meeting with Donald Trump was looking like. So let's just go ahead and start off by watching this video here, and you're going to see Milo Yiannopoulos, who is one of these far-right figures. He really blew up a couple years ago back during the Gamergate era, and he is basically going to be Kanye's campaign manager. So that's the guy who you're going to see in this clip here, and he looks a lot different than he used to, but nonetheless, let's just go ahead and jump into this absolutely wild video here.
I think the thing that Trump was most perturbed about, me asking him to be my vice president, I think that was like lower on the list of things that caught him off guard. It was the fact that I walked in with intelligence. So Trump is really impressed with Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes, unlike so many of the lawyers and so many people that he was left with on his 2020 campaign, he's actually a loyalist. When he didn't know what the lawyers is, you'll still have your lawyer list. And when all the lawyers said, forget it, Trump's done, there were loyalists running up in the White House, right? And my question would be, why, when you had the chance, did you not free the January 6ers? And I came to him as someone who loves Trump, and I said, go and get Corey back. Go and get these people that the media tried to cancel and told you to step away from. He basically gives me this would-be mob-esque kind of story, talking to some kid from the south side of Chicago trying to sound mobby or whatever. He goes into the story about all that he went through to get Alice Johnson out of jail and how he didn't do it for Kim, but he did it for me. But then he goes on to say that Kim is a and you can tell her I said that. And I was thinking, like, that's the mother of my children. Since we know, and all the Christians in America that love Trump know that Trump is a conservative, we're going to demand that you hold all policies directly to the Bible. When Trump started basically screaming at me at the table, telling me I was going to lose, I mean, has that ever worked for anyone in history?
You're going to lose. Tell him he's going to lose.
I'm like, well, hold on, Trump. You're talking to Ye.
All right, so there you have it. I mean, there you have it. Kanye West officially running into 2024 presidential election, apparently, again. Okay, so he did this back in 2020, obviously. I think he only ended up getting like 60,000 votes. Don't anticipate that this is going to be any different for him. In fact, I would probably guess that he is going to get even less support this time around because of all of the rampant anti-Semitism and basically Nazi-adjacent, if not full-blown Nazi rhetoric that he has been coming up with recently. So, I mean, good luck, I guess, to Kanye West. Can't imagine that he's going to have some sort of a broad constituency that's willing to support his campaign. But beyond that, just specifically on Kanye, okay, this guy is clearly still going through a massive mental break, but at the same time, that's not an excuse to do all of the things that he has been doing recently with all of this anti-Semitic rhetoric and all of that. It's definitely not an excuse, and especially, now that we've gotten more background stories that Kanye has been, doing things like praising Hitler for basically years now, this isn't something that just kind of like came up in this recent mental break that he's had. This is something that he has been flirting with for a long time now, so there's no excuses there in terms of the mental health side of this and what Kanye West has been doing recently. But there you have it. There's his announcement. Again, he was cozying up to a few nefarious actors there. Number one was this guy Nick Fuentes, who is basically just a full-blown Nazi. If there was anybody, obviously a lot of people on the right get very sensitive when you use the word Nazi and say like, oh, you're just being hyperbolic, you're just, using that, phrasing because it's easy and it's a way to demonize somebody. No, this is a guy who, if anybody in the country could be accurately defined as a full-blown Nazi, it's this guy Nick Fuentes, okay? This is a guy who is an open white supremacist, an open white Christian nationalist. This is a guy who has done full-on Holocaust denialism on a regular basis. This is a guy who, demonizes the LGBTQ community, black people, immigrants, etc. Anything that could characterize somebody as a Nazi, it's embodied in this guy. Okay, so that's who Nick Fuentes is. And not only did Kanye make this appearance at Mar-a-Lago with Nick Fuentes, but he also recorded this segment as an intro for Nick Fuentes' show, America First. So let's just go ahead and watch this short little clip here.
I'm Ye. Welcome to America First. We got a great show for you tonight.
Okay, so listen, again, anybody who was trying to make excuses for Kanye and say, oh, he's not really trying to be anti-Semitic towards the beginning of this breakdown that he's had recently, here you go. What else could you possibly ask for? He is literally doing an intro for one of the most, prominent young, open Nazis in the country right now. Okay, so this is who Kanye West is apparently now, and I guess this is the platform that he's going to be running on in 2024. And, again, it's especially ironic that he's cozying up to somebody like Nick Fuentes, because if he heard some of the shit that Nick Fuentes says about black people and the black community on a regular basis, I don't know, maybe it would give him some sort of hesitancy, but, at the same time, I honestly doubt it, because he's just going to go with, whatever is going to give him more attention now. So a little bit more information on this guy, Milo Yiannopoulos, the other guy who is now the campaign manager for Kanye West 2024 presidential run. This is a guy who sort of was before my era a little bit, before I really got into like super online politics and understanding a lot of these right-wing pundits and stuff. So I just want to read through a little bit of the top part of his Wikipedia page, because this just gives a basic rundown in terms of who he is, what his background is, where he came from, and what he's been up to recently. So here from the Wikipedia page, they say Milo Yiannopoulos, born Milo Hanrahan in 1984, who is also published as Milo Andreas Wagner, and the mononym Milo, is a British alt-right political commentator. His speeches and writings often ridicule Islam, feminism, social justice, and political correctness, so basically similar to most other right-wing commentators now. They say Yiannopoulos is a former editor at Breitbart News, an American far-right media organization, and they say that he worked for Breitbart from 2014 until 2017, and during his time at Breitbart, Yiannopoulos rose to prominence as a significant voice in the Gamergate controversy, and in July of 2016, he was permanently banned from Twitter for online harassment of the actress Leslie Jones, and then he was permanently banned from Facebook in 2019. It'll be interesting to see if Elon Musk, who has been aggressively letting a lot of these banned or suspended right-wing political pundits back onto Twitter, it'll be interesting to see if he lets Milo back onto Twitter as well. But they say, according to hundreds of emails by Yiannopoulos leaked by BuzzFeed News in 2017, he repeatedly solicited white nationalists such as American Renaissance editor David Saucier for story ideas and editing suggestions during his tenure at Breitbart. They say Yiannopoulos has also been accused of advocating pedophilia. The allegation rose from several video clips in which he said that sexual relationships between 13-year-old boys and adult men and women can be perfectly consensual and positive experiences for the boys. Jesus fucking Christ, man. And they say following the release of the video clips, Yiannopoulos resigned from his position at Breitbart, his invitation to speak before CPAC was revoked, and a contract to publish his autobiography with Simon & Schuster was canceled. They say he has said that he is not a supporter of pedophilic relationships, and that his statements were merely attempts to cope with his own victimhood as an object of child abuse by unnamed older men. Okay, so, obviously some degree of mild sympathy there that he went through that abuse himself, but still doesn't really excuse all of the other rampant Islamophobia and racism and attacks against the LGBTQ community, which is also something that we very consistently see from right-wingers and conservatives when it comes to this issue of like grooming from the LGBTQ community and all of these attacks against trans people as if they're all pedophiles for doing like drag shows or whatever. Frequently, you'll see a lot of these right-wing pundits, whether it's Yiannopoulos, whether it's Matt Walsh is another one. A lot of these Tucker Carlson is another one as well. A lot of these people, if you look at some of their previous statements, it's like they're kind of coping with the fact that they themselves have espoused these types of views in the past, and so they're using this as an opportunity to demonize the gay and trans community and try to portray them as the real pedophiles or the real groomers, when it is vastly disproportionately right-wing people and organizations that are responsible for that type of grooming and pedophilia. I mean, case study number one that you could look at would be the fucking Catholic Church, right? I mean, you want to talk about addressing child predation by adults. The first place that you would start, if you were being honest about seriously addressing the issue, wouldn't be at some goddamn drag shows. It would be within the Catholic Church. I mean, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of kids who have been victimized by these priests, and then active cover-up efforts that in many ways still continue to this day, as priests are just shuffled around to different parishes to cover up their abuse of children and perpetuate it and allow them to continue doing it. I mean, that's where you would start if you actually wanted to be serious about addressing that issue. But obviously, they're not serious about addressing that issue. They just want to use this as an opportunity to, once again, scapegoat a minority group within this country. So that's been very clear for a long time now. But they finish off here saying that in 2022, this is just this year, they say that Yiannopoulos served as an intern for Georgia Congresswoman, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene, unfortunately from my home state here in Georgia. And they say on November 25th, Kanye West suggested that he would be his campaign manager for his 2024 presidential election campaign. So that's just basic rundown in terms of who Nick Fuentes is, who Milo Yiannopoulos is, and that's who Donald Trump, the former president and potential future president, decided to go and sit down and have a lunch with or whatever and talk about their ideas for the future of politics. So here's how Donald Trump has been trying to play this off and basically downplay the idea that he was intentionally sitting down with these open white nationalists, including Kanye West as well, who I guess espouses white nationalist rhetoric, but he's black, so it's like he's basically just similar to Candace Owens in the fact that there's nothing that says that because your identity happens to be black or because you happen to be one way or another. Same with Milo Yiannopoulos, somebody who previously said that he was gay, then basically had his come to Jesus moment and now espouses homophobic rhetoric all the time. It's not mutually exclusive, right? So here's Donald Trump's response to sitting down with these three white nationalists or Christian nationalists or however you want to refer to them as. So, as pointed out here by Shelby Talcott, we got a Truth Social here from Donald Trump. He says, Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, was asking me for advice concerning some of his difficulties, in particular having to do with his business. We also discussed, to a lesser extent, politics, where I told him he should definitely not run for president and, quote, any voters you may have should vote for Trump. Anyway, we got along great. He expressed no anti-Semitism. I love how he points that out, right? We got along great, and he expressed no anti-Semitism. Trust me, bro. And I appreciate all of the nice things that he said about me on Tucker Carlson. Why does he do this? He just quotes random things, capitalizes random things. It's amazing, okay? He says, why wouldn't I agree to meet him? Also, I didn't know Nick Fuentes, okay? I call bullshit. There's absolutely no way that Donald Trump didn't know who Nick Fuentes was. He's just gotten a significant degree of backlash from this meeting, and he's now trying to somewhat distance himself from this guy, okay? But, we're talking about Donald J. Trump, not somebody who has been hesitant throughout his entire life to be, standing side by side with white nationalists or, espousing similar overlapping rhetoric with some of these Nazis, okay? So not surprising there, but he's trying to basically play it off there. We had another follow-up to this about this meeting. So here again from Balaz pointing out another Truth Social we got from him. He says, so I helped a seriously troubled man. I helped a seriously troubled man who just happens to be black. Why? Why would you say that? So I help a seriously troubled man who just so happens to be black, yay, Kanye West, who has been decimated in his business and virtually everything else, and who has always been good to me by allowing his request for a meeting at Mar-a-Lago alone so that I can give him very much needed advice. He shows up with 3 people, 2 of which I didn't know, the other a political person who I haven't seen in years. I told him, don't run for office, a total waste of time, can't win, fake news went crazy. Okay, so, I mean, he's kind of right, I guess, down there that, it is a total waste of time and that Kanye West obviously can't actually win a presidential election, but at the same time, he's still trying to downplay this entire event, downplay the overlapping connections that he has with these open white nationalists or Nazis. So this is basically what happened. There's obviously been a lot of controversy surrounding this. Obviously, this has been blowing up over the last couple of days. And so we had a couple conservatives who decided to come out and give their response or their take on this entire situation. Now, Keep in mind, a lot of these GOP politicians or, political figures are considering running against Donald Trump for the 2024 nomination. Now, you got guys like, Mike Pence. You have guys like Mike Pompeo, who we're about to read his tweet. You got guys like, obviously, Ron DeSantis. None of these people, except for like maybe Chris Christie, have actually come out and directly condemned this meeting with Donald Trump. Now, this tweet from Mike Pompeo is basically like the closest you're going to get in terms of tangentially condemning this entire thing. So here's what he said, and this is just absolutely amazing for so many different reasons, just because of how he framed this and because of how he frames anti-Semitism. Okay, so here from Mike Pompeo. He says, anti-Semitism is a cancer. True. He says, as secretary, I fought to ban funding for anti-Semitic groups that pushed BDS. He says, we stand with the Jewish people in the fight against the world's oldest bigotry. Okay, so you're trying to reference here, okay, even though you're being a coward little bitch and you're not willing to actually directly call out Donald Trump, right? Which is something that's going to be necessary if any of these people actually want to beat him in the 2024 GOP primary. But you're coming out here and saying anti-Semitism is a cancer, and you're referring to a meeting that happened that involved a guy like Nick Fuentes, somebody who is an open Nazi, and instead of condemning Nick Fuentes or some of the previous statements from Milo Yiannopoulos or some of the previous statements from Kanye West or some of the previous statements from Donald Trump himself, you turn the anti-Semitism narrative against BDS? Really? Okay, so, I mean, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure most of the people on my channel do know, but BDS is just boycott, divestment, sanction, okay? It is essentially a movement that was started against the apartheid government in South Africa a couple of decades ago, and it was pretty successful in terms of pressuring that government, right? So people have turned to that and said, we should apply the same strategy against the brazenly apartheid nature of the government of Israel in their prosecution against the Palestinian people. And so he is trying to equate not anti-Semitism with the open fucking Nazis that Donald Trump just met with. He's instead trying to spin this as an attack against people who are trying to fight for the liberation of Palestinian people. Okay, the most cucked shit you could possibly imagine. And again, this plays into actual anti-Semitism, right? This is something that I talk about frequently on this channel. Basically, a broad coalition of both Republicans and Democrats will say that things like BDS are anti-Semitic. They'll say that, critiquing the government of Israel, that's inherently anti-Semitic. You are causing this rise in anti-Semitic violence, right? But look at the discrepancy here, okay? On the one side, you have left-wing people or people who support the liberation of the Palestinian people and are against open apartheid governments, and they are called anti-Semites. And then people like Nick Fuentes, Kanye West, sure, some people like, Ben Shapiro came out, he said that Kanye West was being anti-Semitic, but broadly, the right barely touches these people. The disproportionate nature in terms of, who they call anti-Semites, they'll call Ilhan Omar anti-Semitic, but then they won't turn around and call all of these right-wing, openly anti-Semitic Nazi operatives anti-Semitic. I mean, it's just a complete fucking joke at this point. But, there you got it. Kanye West running for president in 2024. Maybe he'll have to go up and have some sort of beef with Donald Trump down the line. Obviously, Kanye's running. Donald Trump doesn't want him to run. He wants to be the main figurehead. I doubt that Kanye West would be able to pull together any sort of serious coalition outside of, I guess, like online, groypers that like Nick Fuentes or whatever the fuck. But this is the modern GOP, okay? Cozying up, you're the future leader of your party, the face of your party, Donald Trump, cozying up to the most, ridiculous, absurd, brazen white nationalists in the entire country.
Everyone is saying good Politic guy has the best Politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me. Everyone is saying